Justice Watchers, before we begin, I want to make this absolutely clear. The following broadcast contains public domain courtroom footage, commentary, and legal analysis. This content is presented under the Fair Use Doctrine as defined by 17 U.S.C. 107 and is protected by multiple Supreme Court rulings, which you see below. This stream is transformative, educational, and journalistic in nature. It includes original commentary, trial breakdowns, legal interpretation, and critical analysis, not raw redistribution. We do not claim ownership over any public domain footage, and all use is strictly within legal bounds. If you're watching this content, you're engaging in a protected, transformative experience, grounded in law, never in speculation. And if anyone has a problem with that, take it up with Campbell, Brady, Miranda, and Irvin. Remember, guys, justice always works better when we watch. So keep watching. See you in the courtroom.
So, excellent, okay.
So, yeah, it wasn't one of his pockets, but now apparently they gave up and trying to use it. Tanya just left.
Fair enough.
All rise. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Y'all can be seated.
Your Honor, I passed up 2 more letters that I just received.
Okay, are these?
One is from Zach Rice, who was Greg Rice's son, and
Okay.
the other is from Kevin Rice, Greg Rice's brothers. And then,
Look at it at the appropriate time.
and then Savannah Rice is present and would wish to address the court, but I'll call the case first with Your Honor's permission.
Please.
Your Honor, this is State of South Carolina, County of Horry versus Christopher Dontell. Your Honor, Mr. Dontell pleaded what I call straight up to the court as we were prepared to begin his trial to accessory after the fact under True Bill 2024 GS 2603534 and criminal conspiracy to commit murder 2021 GS 2601198. My use of the term straight up means that he did so with absolutely no discussions and no agreements with the state. As I said, the state was poised to proceed with trial when the defendant stood up and expressed his desire to plead guilty. He did testify in the trial of his co-defendant, Meagan Jackson, last month.
All right. Let's go ahead and swear the defendant, please.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes. All right. Good morning, Ms. Zemercheck. How are you?
Good morning, Your Honor. Doing well, thank you.
I'm doing well. Does the state wish to go first, or would the defense like to be heard first?
Your Honor, I think that obviously we would prefer to hear.
Okay.
We were just handed a copy of the 2 letters that you received as well, and I think they said Miss Savannah Rice would like to.
Yes.
And we're fine with that.
Let's go ahead and hear from the state and the victim's family. Okay.
Okay, so just state your name. Say your name so the court recorder does it.
Savannah Rice.
Good morning, Ms. Rice.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I know you're nervous. I just want you to act like you're just talking to me, okay?
Thank you, Your Honor, for hearing my statement. I've had a lot of time to think about what happened, and that doesn't change any way that I feel about the sentencing of Chris Dontell. Chris may have had his family to worry about. He also had my family to worry about the day he chose to continue being an accomplice. He held me as I cried and begged for my dad to come back. He told me it would be okay and that we would find my dad. He didn't tell me that we would find him dead. He could have told the cops what happened. He could have made the choice to do the right thing. I had dozens of scenarios through my mind. He could have went to the cops and ended this years ago, but he didn't. I will never forgive him for that, because my siblings and I have lost our parents and our wives. We will never be able to live a normal life, and even more so, this has made it worse. Chris's maximum sentence possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rice. Ms. Rice, I do want to tell you, I understand how hard this has been on you and your family. While I can't fathom the pain that you've suffered as a result of this, I just want to commend you for your strength, for being here, for being there for Ms. Jackson's trial. I know that takes a lot of strength, and I just want to thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Does the state have anything else to present?
No, Your Honor.
All right, if you could just bear with me just for a moment. Let me take a look at these 2 letters. Thank you. Record will reflect that I have had a chance to read over two statements written by Mr. Zachary Rice and Mr. Kenneth Rice.
And Your Honor, I think you're probably used to me arguing vociferously at sentencing, but typically when one co-defendant testifies against another co-defendant, the state's position is that it's in Your Honor's discretion as to any sentencing.
I understand. Okay, Ms. Zimmercheck. I will say, Ms. Zimmercheck, you can go ahead, Stan. I was just going to tell you, thank you for emailing me the letters. I was able to take a look at each one of them in chambers and read through them. And I certainly appreciate that, being able to have the time to do that. But I'll go ahead and let you begin your presentation.
Thank you, Your Honor, and may it please the court. And in an interest of time, I rarely have I come across a sentencing where I've had so much outreach of people wanting to show their support, which is why I sent that packet to Your Honor and the state so that you would have time and that we wouldn't have to waste time reading through all the letters. What I think, Your Honor, was interesting about those letters, not just the sheer volume, but just the diversity from which they came. We're talking about church people, professionals within the community, and then just normal, everyday people that you work with and servers. And so I wanted to point that out. I emailed these as well, Your Honor, but I would like to talk about them, the pictures that I sent as well. And Your Honor, the first picture was a picture of Chris and Meagan right as she was, I'm sorry, I've got Meagan on the brain, of Chris and Erica right while she was pregnant with their son. And Your Honor, what was telling about this picture and all of the times I've spent with the Dontells and getting to know them and getting to know their family is that, Your Honor, you can see in his eyes in that first picture, it's very, his eyes are a little bit clear, a lot different. That was right before this involvement with Miss Jackson occurred. Your Honor, all of the pictures that I have sent to you included what is really the essence of Chris, and that is being a father to his children. And the picture that after the birth of their children was another picture of Erica and Chris. And Your Honor, the difference between what you can see in Chris's eyes before he got involved with Meagan Jackson and after, I think is telling. Your Honor, clearly he has made some mistakes, and in the 42 years that he has been on this earth, I can assure you he has, this is the biggest of the mistakes. And Your Honor, he, just so I don't forget, 1,588 days are the total amount that he has been incarcerated.
1 second on that. Does the state have any objection to that number? Is that what y'all believe is the number?
Your Honor, I have not had a chance to calculate it. I typically believe that the Department of Corrections will verify anything.
Okay. Thank you. I'm sorry, Ms.
No, you're fine. And I told them ahead of time because there was a period that he was out, and so we had to go back and calculate those days. Your Honor, he, as you obviously am aware, he was arrested in November 19th of 2020, and that's how long this case has been going on. When I read those letters and listening to Ms. Savannah Rice, Your Honor, the underlying theme, of course, besides the tragic loss of Mr. Greg Rice, was the frustration of not knowing. And in fact, when Mr. Dontell did accept his responsibility for his part in this, we received a separate email from the family just thanking us for being able to close that door and move forward. And the frustration that I get from the family, and I completely understand in that length of time, goes back to Mr. Dontell being afraid, and rightfully so, of Meagan Jackson, but not only for himself, for his family as well. Your Honor, I think it goes without saying, obviously, he had no criminal record prior to this, had never been involved in any problems before. And as you, I know that your law clerk was thorough and did sit through his testimony to hear what exactly he did. And even when they tried to impeach him with a little bit of the change from the plea transcript, it was because, Your Honor, after the plea, he was able to sit down and finally, after being told his family would be given protection, he was finally be able to fill in those extra things that he needed to fill in to really bring this together. And Your Honor, obviously being familiar with the case and the trial, I won't belabor the point, and you certainly read it in the letters, but the impact that Meagan had on their lives, as in coming in, really connecting herself to the family and making it so intertwined with her life, Your Honor, is a reason that fear was legitimate. I can tell you that I am asking for probation, and I'll tell you why. One of the things that I do when I come to a sentencing is, especially in the different counties, I try to look at other sentences that have been laid down in situations such as this. Your Honor, most recently I came across the case of Steve Morgan, who had just done 33 months of pretrial as opposed to the 4 years, 4 months and 1 week that Mr. Dontell has been doing. But he was sentenced to a time served with no probation in a case that was a murder case. He was the co-defendant. The body was dumped in the field. Testified against the co-defendant. It was state v. land in August of 22. That then received a time served with no probation. Your Honor, we're asking that the court consider a probationary sentence based on a lot of the arguments that we have been making this whole time, but also when you go back and you look at the trial, the substance of getting the conviction of the person that took the gun, took that 22 and shot it in the locations of Mr. Rice's body that she shot them, it was clear that Meagan Jackson had done this, Your Honor, and Mr. Dontell has been in so deep. Your Honor, he has always been employed. He came here from Missouri with his family. He's always, Maryland, and he's always had a job. He's always tried to make the right decisions. Like I said, coming into a situation like this, Your Honor, has really changed not only his perspective, but the choices that he was making. While in prison, or while in jail, he was diagnosed with being, with having a depressive disorder, Your Honor. But one of the things that was very frustrating in the multiple pretrial bond hearings and things that we had is that people kept saying that the state kept insinuating that he was suicidal. I've gone through all of Mr. Dontell's records. He has been diagnosed with a major depressive disorder, which I think is how we another reason we ended up making he made these terrible, terrible decisions. But Your Honor, there was never a history of any suicidal ideations. Another frustrating fact that Mr. Dontell kept encountering when he was attempting to get out on bond, like his co-defendant was, even though he violated that when they were first out together, the fact that she continued to remain out was incredibly frustrating to him. And every time we would come to a bond hearing, Your Honor, there would be issues such as the state received notice that he was trying to put a hit out on somebody. Your Honor, the state thoroughly investigated all of that. None of that came to fruition. I firmly believe, Your Honor, that the state was being provided information by his co-defendant to specifically keep him in there. She took that opportunity to drive by Mr. Dontell's house with his wife and kids to continue that fear and those threats to him, and that's exactly how he took them. But Your Honor, he has spent all of that time trying to work on himself. He has a strong support system, Your Honor, and I believe that Mr. Dontell himself has written and it's probably just easier for him to read because he's nervous. I know he wants to address the court, but also his wife would like to address the court. Obviously, we've kept that number of persons down to a minimum, but we would ask that the court, then that's why we submitted all those letters, but we would ask that the court, do you hear from Erica Dontell at this time?
Your Honor, when Your Honor believes it's appropriate, I do need to correct a mischaracterization.
Okay. Good morning, Ms. Dontell.
Good morning.
If you just state your name just for the record.
Erica Dontell.
All right, thank you. Happy to hear from you.
Thank you. My name is Erica Dontell. I'm Christopher Dontell's wife. On June 12, 2025, Chris and I spent our 10th wedding anniversary testifying against his co-defendant, Meagan Jackson. For nearly 5 years, I've made the choice each and every day to stay married to Chris. Despite the murder charge, affair, selling, though it felt more like losing my dream home, severe depression and anxiety, financial hardship, and all while solo parenting and homeschooling our 2 kids in hopes of getting them the most normal life possible, I've stayed, and I would like you to understand why. The Chris has been presented to you in this courtroom over the last few years is not the man I chose to marry and build a life with. While Chris and I have been married for 10 years, we've been together for nearly 15, just about half of my life. While Chris and I, the totality of the horrible and unimaginable events that have gotten us here today only took a matter of months. Chris was not simply caught up in a workplace affair, but instead, Meagan Jackson infiltrated all areas of our lives and became the literal antichrist to our family. Within 8 short months, Meagan Jackson moved into our neighborhood and set her plan in motion with 2 goals in mind: end Chris and mine's marriage and rid herself of Greg Rice, only one of which she succeeded at. From day one of knowing Meagan, she had perfectly curated a narrative to gain compassion from both Chris and myself. At the time, it was our understanding that Greg Rice was an abusive, drug-addicted pervert, and Meagan sold that story to us every chance she got. Chris nor I had never met Greg, and from her stories, we felt we never wanted to. I believe everything she told us was a tactical move to allow her plan to move forward without a hitch. Meagan sold both Chris and I on the idea that we were all friends, and she was willing to and ready to solve all of our problems. She used the economic crash caused by COVID to shower us with expensive gifts, food, and promises of my dream come true, a summer camp for kids here in the county. Life was going to be perfect, and she was going to be to thank for it, until it wasn't. Through her manipulation and a full stock of pricey alcohol, Meagan used some challenges in our marriage that I had confided in her to present Chris with an escape from reality of the stresses of home and work. I'm not making excuses for Chris's behavior, but I feel the backstory is important to understand how we got here. Chris made choices that he's expressed to me that he deeply regrets and has been paying for ever since. I will not overlook his role and the damage his decisions have caused. But it's with every fiber of my being that I say, if COVID shutdown had never happened, Chris would not be involved in this case at all. I do, however, believe Meagan still would have found a way to do what she did to Greg. In January 2011, Chris and I had reconnected when we lived in Maryland, and we clicked instantly. He was hardworking, shared my love of baseball, and had the same overall goals and aspirations for life as I did, including our future plans of moving to Myrtle Beach. We often spent our time on the ball field playing trivia or sitting at the swing at the North Myrtle Beach Airport watching banner planes take off and land. Until November 2021, Chris and I had never been apart for more than a week and a half when he had to go away for training in 2015. We spent just every single day for 10 years together. I know who Chris is. Chris is kind, helpful, caring, passionate, and enjoys pizza and karaoke, and though his songs may be questionable, not always family friendly, but above all, Chris loves our kids more than life itself and would give anything to be reunited with them. Over the years, I've been on many death calls with Chris, one of which was one of our first dates. Chris has always had such a gift for making people's worst moments a little easier. We often got letters or ran into family members from death calls that he worked, and every single one would go on about how compassionate and caring he was and about the difference he made in their lives at that time. Based on what I witnessed firsthand for 10 years, it's my belief that Chris felt he had no choice but to be involved how he was in this case. Meagan threatened him, and she was dangerous enough that Chris's previous attorney advised to continue communication with Meagan out of fear of what she might do if she found out he was turning on her. This was confirmed by the said attorney over dinner with me, and we later sought new counsel. I find myself wishing every day that this was one big nightmare, but unfortunately it's reality. Chris is not the only one that has been punished for over the last 4 years. We've lost family members that never got a last hug or a goodbye from Chris. We've welcomed new family members by marriage and birth into the family that have never met him, and I underwent the entire process of selling our old home and buying a new one because I no longer felt safe with the co-defendant living street away. But most importantly, our kids have suffered. Very quickly, they lost close friends they had in Meagan's kids, their dad, their home, their neighborhood friends, and the normalcy we had prior to October of 2020. Chris is an amazing father despite the poor choices he made over the few months when he was under the control of Meagan. Our children were 5 and 2 when Chris's bond was revoked. Chris missed potty training our son, the loss of first teeth for both of our kids, daddy and daughter dances, and simply just everyday moments that others take for granted. My heart breaks for the Rice kids who have missed out and will continue to miss those things with their own dad. I would give anything to go back in time knowing what I know now, but unfortunately that can't happen. We were all under Meagan's spell of her false narrative and promises. I will continue to pray for the Rice kids every day and love them and hope they are forever surrounded by the love that they always deserved but did not receive from their own mom. During his incarceration, Chris has attended church services, Christian counseling sessions, which we will continue together when we are able to. And he's helped keep things as normal as possible for our kids by playing games like rock, paper, scissors and practicing their math facts and spelling words, and even attending sporting events through the video visits. I respectfully ask you to please consider Chris as the man he is as a whole and not just the actions within such a small period of time when he felt there was no way out. We have lost so much already, and it is my hope that you would consider the time Chris and our entire family have already served and allow him to come home to our family.
Thank you, Ms. Dontell. All right, yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Your Honor, and I believe the defendant would like to address the court personally. And he wrote it, Your Honor, just because he wanted to keep his thoughts straight.
I've thought about the Rice family, hurt for them, and wished I could speak with them every day for going on 5 years. I'm so sorry that they had to learn the details of Greg's death in such a public way at Meagan's trial, and that I was the bearer of some of those details. Greg Rice's and Meagan Jackson's 4 kids have become an extension of my family. And knowing how badly, knowing how badly they were hurt and that I played a role in causing any pain at all to them is something I'm going to struggle with for the rest of my life. To simply keep saying I'm sorry just doesn't feel right. And I don't know that I can effectively articulate the depth of the combination of love, pain, regret, and compassion I feel for those kids and for everyone who loved Greg. I'm sorry for having any involvement with Meagan. Virtually everything about her is the exact opposite of everything I've ever been and stood for. As embarrassing as it is to admit, I chose to overlook everything bad about her because she was spending thousands of dollars a month on my family, and because she had convinced me that she was basically going to make all mine and my family's dreams come true. In retrospect, it's clear that my involvement with her was founded on deception and selfishness. This led to a snowball of poor decisions on my part, infidelity, and to Meagan having a grip on every aspect of my life. If not for these poor decisions on my part, I know that I would not have been with her on the night of October 2nd, would not have been in the position to be an accessory after the fact, and would not have had any part in causing any suffering to anyone. I heard Meagan say things like, I'm going to kill Greg, and I'm going to kill my kids. More than once, she told me she was going to kill me. She said these kinds of things nonchalantly, and I never took them as a serious threat. I chose to overlook these things and all the other red flags that were waving in my face because of the attributes I thought were good about her, which I now see were only those which served me in some way. I realize that my involvement with Meagan, and thereby this case, has caused some variation of hardship to many, including my business partners, employees, colleagues, neighbors, my friends, my family, and especially the loved ones of Greg Rice. During the years I spent in jail, I have, with the help of counselors, taken accountability and begun the process of repairing the damage. As for the Rice family, I just want them to know that if there's anything I can do to help them gain closure, I'll do whatever I can do for them, whether that's now or years from now. My heart will always be with them.
And then, Your Honor, just briefly in closing, I just wanted to address a few more things. One, the letters, and I know that they're not understanding of the law, but with the Rice letters that I just reviewed, and they said that he was permitted to plead to a lesser charge, Your Honor. Mr. Dontell certainly did plead to what he was guilty of. That's something that we had actually been offering to plead to for a while. The negotiations, we couldn't come to an agreement on the negotiations at the time, Your Honor, but we were negotiating with them prior to anybody going to trial. Your Honor, as we presented this case this morning for Mr. Dontell, who accepted responsibility and the accountability of accessory after the fact, which he was clearly guilty of, and making poor choices, it's important to present those circumstances that led to his involvement and the meaningful steps that he's taken since then to right his wrongs. And that's what I think that we've been trying to do today, is to give you a snapshot of who Chris was, what he was, when he was finally able to get that sense of protection for his family and come clean. At the time of the offense, he was clearly deeply influenced and manipulated by Meagan Jackson, who he trusted, and she took advantage of his loyalty, his immaturity, his use of alcohol to make poor choices. Your Honor, he did not stand up when he should have for all of the children involved, and he knows that. And this weakness has made him live with this regrettable decision. Your Honor, every time I look at this case, I think of all of the things that could have been done if he were a criminal master, even if he wasn't a criminal mastermind, Your Honor, the things that could have been done that would have made this case, for example, using the crematorium, that would have made this case almost impossible to solve. But he was finally able, with risk to his family's safety, his continued reputation, and he finally, in December of this past year, cooperated fully with law enforcement and the prosecution. His testimony was crucial in ensuring that justice was served, especially against Meagan, who was primarily responsible. And the cooperation came at a personal cost. He is continuing to accept the accountability and help correct the wrongs he once enabled. He has shown sincere remorse, in turning his life around. He's engaged in counseling, as you've heard. One of the things that, if you recall, a group of pretrial motions about 1.5 years ago, I was demanding to have all of his jail costs, because oftentimes people say things when they don't think the jails are listening. Your Honor, myself and my entire staff spent, I think, 2 weeks listening to almost 4 years worth of jail phone calls. And I can tell you that 80% of those were him talking with his children and still being a father. And I know that is a luxury that he has that the Rices don't have, and he knows that too. And he is still living with that, and he is still combating with that. And he knows that he can't make that right, can't change it, but he can try to make it right from here on out. In his desire to accept that accountability. Your Honor, we understand that this offense was serious. But I think it's important for the court to understand that he was not an architect of this crime. He was someone who made several misguided choices in a terrible situation. He's demonstrated growth, cooperation, a willingness to accept responsibility, and qualities that suggest rehabilitation that he's already started. Your Honor, we are certainly not we are not just the worst thing we've ever done in life, but we are asking the court to consider a serious sentence over his head that would be suspended to an intensive 5-year period of probation. In a way, because if he violated that probation, then he would have to go back and do all of that time based under the new law if he were to receive that. So we ask the court to take all of the letters of support, all of what we presented into consideration when making the determination. Justice can be served along with mercy. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, Ms. Zimmercheck mentioned a case in her argument, Stephen Morgan, where the defendant was given time served. That actually happens to have been my case, and the two cases are diametrically opposed to each other. Mr. Morgan was not present during the murder, did not help dispose of the victim's body in that case, came forward immediately when questioned by police, and cooperated throughout the entire way. He also pleaded guilty only to accessory after the fact and did not, as Dontell has done, plead guilty to criminal to commit murder. So I just want to make sure that it's clear that that is not an appropriate comparison for the case in front of Your Honor.
Ms. Walter, let me ask you this. It got brought up in the defense's presentation about bond. Am I correct that he was given a bond at one point but violated it?
Yes, Your Honor. Both defendants were given bonds. They both violated it by having continued contact with each other. They were both violated, and then Ms. Jackson was released, violated again. It was sort of a revolving door. She was given an opportunity for home detention again, but continued to violate it. I believe there was one other bond hearing for Mr. Dontell, and that was denied. But he has been in since that first violation.
And I'm also correct that there were, you initially talked to law enforcement, and then there was a proffer?
Yes, Your Honor, there was a proffer, and Mr. Dontell violated the terms of that proffer, so that proffer never went forward.
Okay. Mrs. Zimmercheck, anything else from the defense?
Nothing for, well, just a very brief follow-up, Your Honor. Yes, he had 3 detention hearings after that. They were all denied. The end result was the same. And Your Honor, he did the proper and the testimony was all done prior to my involvement in the case, Your Honor. Obviously, when we were able to secure that protection for his family with the bond conditions and zones against his family and her and the children, Your Honor, he did sit down and I think fully cooperate with them and testified to those exact same details at the trial.
Well, thank you. Okay. Mr. Dontell, your attorney has done a good presentation and quite frankly, I believe has done a remarkable job to get you where you are today. She's correct that my law clerk did go in and view your testimony in Meagan Jackson's trial, but I also went back and viewed your testimony as well. Your testimony did differ in what you admitted to when you pled guilty to the charges you're here for today. My concern is simply this. I understand that you're remorseful. You're here today to take ownership over what you've done. However, by my math, it took about 1,500 days for that to happen. You said in your testimony in Ms. Jackson's trial that you were scared of Ms. Jackson. I don't know what you were scared of once she got incarcerated, though. She absolutely couldn't hurt your family when she was incarcerated. and you still decided that you wanted to withhold the truth. And then you testified or proffered again with the state and again gave them different information. The truth of the matter in this, according to your own testimony, is that you were present when Mr. Greg Rice was gunned down, and that you helped dispose of that body. You, a person who disposes of bodies, as your job. And yet it took you 1,500 days before you gave this family some solace in knowing what happened to their dad. I saw in your testimony where you hoped your testimony would give you a lesser sentence. And I'll tell you that based on your testimony, the fact that you pled to an accessory and a co-conspirator is your lesser sentence. You very easily could be right where Ms. Jackson is, doing life in prison. I will give you the credit for the time that you have served. You're entitled to that by statute. But as to the accessory after the fact, it's the sentence of this court that you be committed to the State Department of Corrections for a period of 15 years. And as for the conspiracy, it's the sentence of this court that you be sentenced to the maximum again of 5 years, and those are to run consecutive. Mr. Dontell, I understand that you're here and want to give the closure to the Rice family, and I hope that this does that. And I hope that ultimately, when you get out, that you will remember what you've done to your own family and what you've done to the Rice family. But that's the sentence of this court. Thank you. Ms. Walker, do we have anything else?
No, just regular trial roster.
All right, thank you. We'll be at ease.
And if that trial resolves or ends and you or Judge Nettles